Hey, welcome back to Old Guy Woodworks. So you can see this old ratty, nasty, temporary MDF top that I have on my desktop. I figured it was time to get rid of it and do a nice walnut veneer overlay and make it look kind of like this. So since this is just a 3/4 inch piece of MDF that I'm going to do my layup with the walnut, I'm going to put another 3/4 inch strip here and kind of give it the illusion that it's 1.5 inches thick, and then we'll go ahead and veneer the face and then the top. And I like to mock this up dry first. That way I can get this strip exactly where I want it. When there's glue underneath it and I go to clamp it down, it likes to slide around and everything, but when there's no glue on it, it's dry and it doesn't slide. So then I can go ahead, clamp it, pre-drill the holes, then take it off, put the glue on it, and then glue it right in place. I like to have this bottom piece just a little proud of the finished top. That way I'll come back later with the trim router, with the flush bit, and just trim that off flush. So here's the flush trim router, and you'll notice that I have another piece to keep the router stable so it didn't rock from side to side. Then I sanded it just to make it nice and smooth, take out any little burrs so I could lay down this nice piece of walnut edge banding. And remember to use your wife's good iron, she really appreciates that. Then I used the iron, kind of rolled the edges just to make sure my edges were glued down real well. Rough trimmed it with the razor knife, and then used half of one of my edge banding trimmers, which didn't work that well because it was wood and it kind of splintered on me, and I got a couple little burrs here and there. I didn't really like that. So on the second top I used the router, and that worked perfect. And I always like to sand these by hand. I don't power sand them. Just take out any of the little burrs. There is paper backing. Some of the paper will come out, and I sanded that paper off as well. And since the top was old and kind of dirty, I sanded it to take out any of the bad spots in it so the glue would adhere to it real well. Then I wiped it down with the tack rag to take all the dust off. Then I taped the veneer down to a piece of cardboard so it wouldn't slide around on me. Applied a good amount of contact cement over the whole veneer piece. Made sure that it was even. Wasn't stingy with it, but I didn't let it pool anywhere, and just kind of spread it and made sure that it was all spread evenly. And then I slid it off of the top and then spread a nice coat of contact cement all the way around, nice and even. Same technique as before, and waited for another old guy to show up to help me flip it over. Set my timer for 15 minutes and waited for it to dry. And waited. It's like watching water boil or glue dry. Now that we had waited 15 minutes and the other old guy showed up, I used these pieces of pipe to flip the veneer and lay it over on top. And that way it did make contact with the top at all. And I was able to adjust this where we wanted it and just slid one pipe out at a time and worked from the end all the way up and pressed and pushed and rolled and tried not to get any air gaps, and it actually worked real well, except you can't see through the old guy. The only problem when you start down on the end, if you're not straight and parallel, you could have a gap down on the one end, but this all worked out in the end. It came out great. So on my second top, I put these blocks on the edge that was kind of like a guide for my top, and I actually taped the veneer to those blocks so it would hold it perfectly in place. I was able to flip it on my own, and instead of working from the end, I worked from the center. And you can see I used the tape to tape it to those blocks, started from the center and worked out to the edge. And this came out better than the first one. And so I was able to do this on my own, even though the other old guy hadn't shown up. I had to take a ration of stuff from him when he finally showed up.
What the hell?
It was 20 seconds, man. Or 20 minutes. Or 15 minutes.
Did you do it just perfectly without me?
I did.
Well, it would have been nice if you sent me a text so I didn't have to bother walking all the way over here. It's awesome.
Well, I didn't know you were coming. Because
I told you I was coming.
You know you didn't. So after listening to complain, I used the router again and trimmed it all the way around. And it came out with a real nice edge. And it came out real clean. And sanded it just to take any little burrs or maybe remove a little bit of paper that was on the veneer. And this is what the top looks like without any finish. I got approval from the boss at Old Guy Woodworks of what color she wanted this to be. It was just a real light stain. Wanted to just enhance what the walnut had. I didn't want to add too much color to it. Then I just wipe off the excess. I don't rub it all out, but just anywhere that it's pulled. And then I shoot this fast drying vinyl sealer over it, which is a really good sealer. I get good results out of this. You don't have to worry about leaving wet lines or anything like that. It dries so fast. You come back, you sand it with a little 220 paper, and not going too deep because we're just sanding the sealer and not into the walnut veneer. Then I use air to blow all the dust out of the grooves. If you wipe it with the tack rag, it's not going to get all the dust that's in the grain. But I blow it off, and then I use a tack rag, and then I shoot a coat of finish on it. And when I shoot my finish, you'll notice I do this in one pass, all the way down, all the way back, leaving no lap joints in the middle anywhere. Lacquer will have a tendency to leave a little bit of dust, so when I'm done, I like to shoot it with straight lacquer thinner, and that way it melts all the dust, blends everything together, and gives a real nice, smooth, shiny finish. And here it is. Brand new desktop and the new command center here at Old Guy Woodworks.